It was a cold Tuesday morning in November when Marcus Riley's world changed forever. He was running late to pick up his 7-year-old son from after-school care, rushing through the autumn drizzle in his old pickup truck, when he noticed something that made his heart stop. There, sitting alone at the bus stop on Maple Street, was a young girl in a wheelchair. She couldn't have been more than 12 years old, and she was soaking wet, shivering, with tears streaming down her face. Marcus pulled over without thinking twice, and what happened next would teach him something about kindness that he never knew he needed to learn. What he thought would be a 5-minute act of compassion turned into a life-changing journey that would reshape his understanding of love, responsibility, and the incredible power of one person's willingness to care. This is the story of how a single father's moment of kindness became a beacon of light, not just for one struggling girl, but for an entire community. This is the story of Come With Me. And it will remind you that sometimes the most meaningful moments in life happen when we choose to see another person suffering and decide we cannot walk past it. If you're watching this story of kindness and human compassion, please take a moment to subscribe to Kindness Hub. We share inspiring stories every single day that remind us of the beauty in human nature and the incredible things that happen when we choose compassion over indifference. Hit that like button if this story touches your heart, and leave a comment below telling us about a time when someone's kindness changed your life. We read every single comment, and your stories inspire us just as much as this one does. Now let's dive into Marcus's incredible journey. Marcus Riley had spent the last 5 years doing his best to be both mother and father to his son, Tommy. His wife had passed away from cancer when Tommy was just 2 years old, and the grief had nearly destroyed him. But Marcus was the kind of man who believed that if life knocked you down, you got back up, brushed off the dust, and kept moving forward. He worked long hours as a mechanic, coming home with grease under his fingernails and a tired smile for his boy. Every penny went into keeping a roof over their heads and making sure Tommy never felt like he was missing out because his mother was gone. That Tuesday morning had started like any other. Marcus woke up before dawn, packed Tommy's lunch, made sure he had his favorite dinosaur backpack for school, and drove him to the bus stop near their modest home in Springfield. The day had been rough at the repair shop, with 3 major jobs backing up and a temperamental boss who wasn't happy about anything. All Marcus wanted was to collect his son from after-school care, maybe grab some hot dogs from their favorite food truck, and spend a quiet evening watching cartoons with Tommy before bedtime. That was his plan, simple and perfect in its ordinariness. But as he turned onto Maple Street, still thinking about the day's stresses, something caught his eye. At the bus stop where he usually picked up Tommy when the weather was bad, there was a girl in a manual wheelchair. Her red jacket was soaked through, and she was hunched over, her blonde hair plastered to her face with rain. She was alone. Completely and utterly alone. Marcus's first instinct was to check his phone. It was already 4:45. Tommy would be waiting. His stomach twisted, and he almost kept driving. But then the girl looked up. Their eyes met for just a second, and Marcus saw something that froze him in place. She looked terrified. Not just scared about the rain or being wet, but deeply, profoundly scared. Like she had been sitting there abandoned, wondering if anyone would ever come. Marcus had only felt that kind of fear once before, and it was the night he held his wife's hand in the hospital, knowing she was slipping away, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. He pulled the truck over immediately, parking hazard lights flashing. The girl's eyes widened with a mixture of hope and caution as Marcus jumped out, his jacket already soaked. He ran to her, not caring about his clothes or his schedule. "Hey, sweetheart, are you okay? Where's your ride?" he asked gently, crouching down so he was at eye level with her. The girl's lips were almost blue from cold, and she was shaking so badly she could barely speak. My mom," she stammered out between chattering teeth. "She was supposed to pick me up. I've been here since school ended at 3. Maybe she forgot, or maybe she's stuck in traffic." But even as she said it, Marcus could hear the doubt in her voice. A child knows when they have been forgotten. There's a particular kind of pain that comes with waiting and waiting, watching other children get picked up while you remain. Marcus had seen it in Tommy's eyes exactly once, when his regular babysitter was late, and he had never forgotten that helpless feeling of his son's disappointment. Marcus made a decision in that moment that would alter the trajectory of both their lives. "What's your name?" he asked, still speaking gently. "I'm Emma," she replied quietly. "Emma, my name is Marcus. I'm going to pick up my son from school, and then I'm going to take you to get warm and safe. Can you tell me your mother's phone number so we can call her?" Emma gave him the number, and Marcus called from his truck while getting her inside and turning up the heater to full blast. A woman answered, and Marcus explained the situation in his calm, matter-of-fact way. There was a long silence on the other end, followed by an explosion of panic and apologies. Emma's mother had been overwhelmed with work, had gotten caught in traffic, and had completely lost track of time. She was nearly a half-hour away and was rushing to get Emma now. Marcus told her not to worry, that he had Emma, and she was warm and safe. He gave her his address and told her to come collect her daughter once Emma had dried off and warmed up. For the first time, Emma smiled a little bit, relief washing over her small face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." When Marcus pulled up to pick up Tommy, his son climbed into the truck without his usual chatter about school and dinosaurs. He took one look at Emma in the front seat and immediately asked, "Who's this?" in that innocent, curious way that only children have. Marcus explained that Emma's mom was running late, and they were going to help her out by bringing her home to warm up. Tommy nodded seriously and introduced himself, already moving into the back seat without complaint to give Emma the front spot where the heater was strongest. The drive to Marcus's house was quiet. Emma slowly stopped shaking as the warmth of the truck enveloped her. Tommy offered her his juice box without being asked, and Marcus could see the little girl relax, her shoulders dropping from up around her ears. When they got home, Marcus helped Emma into the house in her wheelchair, noting how the small bathroom door wasn't quite wide enough and making a mental note to fix that if she needed to use it. He brought her an old sweatshirt and sweatpants, made sure she could manage, and set her up in the living room with dry clothes and a blanket. Then Marcus made hot chocolate. Not from a packet, but the real kind. With milk he heated on the stove and cocoa powder he stirred in slowly. He added tiny marshmallows that Tommy helped him pick out, and when he handed Emma the mug, her entire face lit up like Christmas morning. She wrapped her hands around the warmth and took a careful sip, closing her eyes like she was experiencing the most luxurious thing in the world. "This is the best hot chocolate I've ever had," she said softly. "My mom usually just gives me the instant kind." It wasn't much, a warm drink and a dry place to sit. But to Emma, it was everything. Marcus sat down in his worn armchair and watched her with Tommy, who was telling her all about his favorite dinosaur, the Triceratops, and how it had 3 horns and was really good at fighting but was also a vegetarian. So it was kind of like if a bodybuilder only ate salad. Emma giggled. It was a real, genuine giggle, the sound of a child feeling safe. When Emma's mother finally arrived, she was a nervous wreck. She rushed in, apologizing profusely, almost crying with relief and guilt. Her name was Rebecca, and Marcus could see immediately that she was a good person who had simply reached her breaking point. She worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over their heads since Emma's father had walked out 2 years prior. Sometimes life just overwhelms us, and we make mistakes. Marcus didn't judge her. Instead, he made her tea and listened to her story. Emma had been paralyzed from the waist down in a car accident when she was 9 years old, an accident her father had been driving. The guilt and anger had driven him away, unable to cope with what had happened. Rebecca had been holding everything together on her own ever since, working herself to exhaustion, trying to be enough for her daughter. She had been overwhelmed and forgot the time. As Marcus listened, he realized something profound. Kindness isn't just about the grand gestures. It's not about changing the world in one fell swoop or performing miracles. Sometimes kindness is simply about witnessing someone's struggle and refusing to look away. It's about understanding that everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about and choosing compassion anyway. Emma looked at her mother and then at Marcus and Tommy. "Can I come back?" she asked softly. "Would that be okay?" Marcus looked at Rebecca, and without saying a word, they both understood. "Of course," Marcus said. "We'd like that very much." What started as a spontaneous act of kindness became a weekly tradition. Every Tuesday after school, Emma's mom would drop her off at Marcus's house. The 3 of them would do homework together, make snacks, watch movies, and just exist in each other's presence. Marcus began to notice how isolated Emma had become, how her world had shrunk to just home and school and nothing else. Her mother's work schedule meant she didn't have friends over, didn't go to after-school activities, didn't have experiences beyond survival. But Marcus couldn't just be satisfied with giving Emma a few hours of normalcy once a week. He started thinking bigger. He looked into wheelchair-accessible basketball leagues and found one. He talked Emma into trying it. She was terrified at first, but Marcus and Tommy went to every practice and every game, cheering louder than anyone else in the gym. Emma scored her first basket 3 weeks in, and Marcus cried right there in the stands. He began understanding the architecture of Emma's life, the small barriers that added up to big restrictions. He noticed the bathroom door he'd thought about before and installed a wider one. He helped Rebecca understand that her daughter wasn't broken or limited in the way she thought. Emma was just differently mobile, differently able, but absolutely, completely able to live a full and rich life if people cared enough to help her do it. The transformation wasn't overnight, but over months, Emma became more confident, more joyful, more herself. She made friends on her basketball team. She started going to school events. She laughed more, and that laugh filled Marcus's small house with light. Tommy adored her, treating her like the little sister he'd never had. And Rebecca, slowly, began to breathe easier, began to understand that asking for help wasn't weakness, and that there were good people in the world who would show up. One day, about 8 months after that cold Tuesday morning, Emma came to the house with a gift for Marcus. It was a small picture frame with a photo of the 4 of them together, taken at one of her basketball games. She had written on the back, "To Marcus, who taught me that kindness is a superpower. Thank you for coming back to that bus stop. You saved my life. Love, Emma." Marcus held that frame and wept. Not sad tears, but the kind of tears you cry when you realize you've touched another human being's life in a way that matters. He had saved Emma's life not by doing anything extraordinary, but by simply stopping when he saw someone in need and asking what he could do. The beautiful thing about kindness is that it ripples out in ways we can never predict. Marcus's choice to help Emma changed her life, yes, but it also changed Tommy, who learned from his father that compassion means action. It changed Rebecca, who learned to trust again and to let others in. It changed Marcus himself, who discovered that his small, ordinary life had the power to transform someone else's extraordinary struggle. A year later, Emma was ranked 3rd in her wheelchair basketball league. She joined the school's debate team and won her first competition. She was invited to prom and went with a boy from her history class who looked at her like she hung the moon. She applied to colleges and got accepted to 3. And through all of it, she came to Marcus's house on Tuesdays, and they sat around the dinner table like family, because that's what they had become. The world doesn't always celebrate the quiet kindnesses, the small moments where one person decides to help another. We're taught to look for the dramatic rescue, the viral moment, the big gesture captured on camera. But the real power of kindness lives in these ordinary moments, when a tired mechanic with his own struggles pulls over on a rainy day and chooses to see another person's pain as something worth his time and energy. When you walk through your day, remember that you have the power to change someone's life without changing your life dramatically. You don't need to be rich or famous or powerful. You just need to see someone who is struggling and decide that their struggle matters. You need to stop when you could keep driving. You need to offer a warm drink in a safe place. You need to follow through, not just once, but consistently, because kindness isn't a single action, it's a way of being in the world. Emma is now in college, studying to be a counselor so she can help other children with disabilities navigate their own journeys. Marcus still works at the repair shop, but now he has a little more light in his life, a bigger family, a fuller heart. Tommy is growing up knowing that compassion isn't just something we talk about, it's something we do. And Rebecca has found peace, knowing that her daughter will be okay, because there are people in the world who believe in her. This is what kindness looks like. It's not flashy. It's not always easy. But it's the most powerful force in the universe, because it's the force that holds us all together, that reminds us we're not alone, that transforms ordinary moments into miracles. The next time you see someone who is hurting or struggling or alone, remember Emma at that bus stop. Remember Marcus pulling over. Remember that you have the power to change everything with just one kind decision. Be the person who stops. Be the one who cares. Be the person who says, "Come with me, you're not alone anymore." Because when you do, you'll discover what Marcus discovered, that kindness doesn't just change the person you're helping, it changes you too, forever, in the most beautiful way.